Hi, welcome back to my views and news. Two news stories. First one is about telephone call between Ethiopian PM Abiy and US Secretary of State Antony Blinken. US is asking Ethiopian government to do more about the conflict in Amhara region, to do more about the suspension of aid in Ethiopia. Details for you in the video. Secondly, an Eritrean opposition party leader is speaking about regime change in Eritrea. Who is he? What did he say? It seems that what opposition is doing, opposition believes it's part of regime change. What opposition is doing, sitting abroad. Firstly, viewers, Antony Blinken, US Secretary of State, contacted Ethiopian PM Abiy a few hours ago. After that, US State Department issued a statement. What was this call about? Because US snubbed Ethiopia when Lloyd Austin, Secretary of Defense, visited Ethiopian neighbors this week. Austin visited Kenya, Djibouti. He met with Somalia's president too. He discussed regional security there. Ethiopia was not visited by Austin. But after that, we saw that Antony Blinken called Ethiopian PM Abiy. What was the agenda? Why did Antony Blinken call Ethiopian PM? Well, the statement which has been issued by the State Department after this telephone call mentions Amhara and Oromia, but in the first part of the statement, regional security is mentioned, and then there is a mention of conflict in Amhara. So we can say that this call focused on the conflict in Amhara, and we know that the US a few days ago proposed a peaceful solution to the conflict in Amhara, asking Ethiopian government to talk to resolve the hostilities in Amhara and Oromia regions. After that, a top US diplomat, Mike Hammer, visited Europe and then he visited Ethiopia. Did he meet with Ethiopian PM Abiy? I don't know, but he visited Ethiopia. He visited Ethiopia and he met with Tigray leaders, opposition parties leaders too. He met with Gaido Andergacho too, who criticized Amhara government a few days ago, who opposed imposition of state of emergency. After Mike Hammer's visit, now Antony Blinken is asking Ethiopian government to do more. So a conflict in Amhara was item number one on the agenda of call between PM Abiy and Antony Blinken. Oromia also came into discussions. And as I said earlier in a video, US is now acknowledging, US has now acknowledged that Fano, or the groups fighting in the Amhara region, are parties. That is why a call for peaceful dialogue is being made by US. US is not calling Fano extremist group, bandits, robbers. That is what Ethiopian government uses these terms for Fano fighters. But US is treating the two parties on equal footing. That is why US is calling for dialogue. Secondly, the statement mentions respect for human rights. Again, the statement, this point is linked to the violation of human rights which is happening in Amhara region, in Oromia as well, but main extrajudicial killings, arbitrary arrests are happening in the Amhara region. So again, point number two is about the Amhara region. Thirdly, he wants more before resumption of food aid to Ethiopia. Food aid was suspended. Delivery of food aid was suspended to Ethiopia by USAID and World Food Program a few weeks ago when the two organizations accused that Ethiopian regional military officials were involved in stealing the food aid meant for the needy people. After that, Tigray conducted an inquiry and it arrested some people, saying that some officials were involved in food aid theft. What did Ethiopian federal government? We don't know. But USAID and World Food Program, they have been demanding more oversight, transparency in terms of compiling of lists of the needy people and distribution of food. Ethiopia has been resisting bigger role of aid organizations into preparing lists of the needy who will receive the aid. But aid largely suspended. Now US wants more oversight. It wants transparent mechanism for distribution of food aid in Ethiopia. And then lastly, interestingly, Antony Blinken welcomed, quote unquote, he welcomed ongoing work to establish genuine, credible and inclusive transitional justice mechanism. The US here seems to be supporting indigenous Ethiopian transitional justice mechanism, while US has been a supporter of international human rights investigators' work. US-backed UN Human Rights Commission, whose mandate is going to expire and extension is under consideration. But here US is praising Ethiopian government for working to establish a genuine, credible and inclusive transitional justice mechanism. Not indigenous, but it seems that US is supporting the Ethiopian local transitional justice mechanism, to which some amendments have been proposed by Tigray. So the fate of UN Inquiry Commission is still undecided, but here I think US is backing the local transitional justice mechanism, but US wants change issues. So we can say the call was mainly about Amhara. US wants the government to talk to the groups in Amhara, but so far government is resisting. Government has not made any tangible, meaningful effort to engage the Fano fighters. Government believes it should crush Fano, it should weaken Fano, and then maybe talks can start at a later stage. Let's see what will be the outcome of this call. We'll see in coming days. Secondly, viewers, Eritrean opposition parties are also talking about regime change in Eritrea. Everyone is talking about regime change in Eritrea. Eritrean government itself, Eritrean government also, Eritrean government, its newspaper published an article around 24 hours ago about attempts of regime change in Eritrea. Then a meeting was held in Ethiopia to discuss the strategic issues, and their military officer, their Prosperity Party member submitted a paper. The paper was read and it was about regime change in a neighboring country. It was said that if a new government takes power in a neighboring country, Ethiopia will be in a better position to gain access to a port. Which neighboring country? It seems that the paper implied regime change in Eritrea. And we heard from some pro-Eritrean government activists too, who are saying that amnesty report is basically part of regime change. Now, Eritrean opposition parties are also using the term regime change. Bijine Gebresger is a former leader of Bright Future Movement. Bright Future Movement is one of diaspora opposition parties. These parties don't have any standing, any presence in Eritrea, because in Eritrea there is one party rule, no opposition allowed. But these opposition parties have organized themselves abroad. BNA's former president, because around a week ago, Bright Future Movement elected a new president. David Girme is the new president. This transition was peaceful. but BNA is one of top leaders of Bright Future Movement. And Bright Future Movement is part of Brigade Nehamido, whose members are attacking Eritrean government-backed festivals across the world. BNA spoke about regime change a few hours ago, around 5 to 6 days ago as well. He mentioned regime change. He said work to change the regime in Eritrea is underway. And we, opposition parties, were contacting people inside, outside Eritrea. We want them to join the struggle. Now, it seems that what Brigade Nehamido is doing, it is being seen as part of a regime change. I don't know how these opposition parties can change the regime by launching movements in Europe, in America, in Canada, because at least they should have some presence close to Eritrea. I don't think they have any significant presence close to Eritrea. Obviously, they are not in Eritrea. In Eritrea, intelligence agencies don't allow any opposition elements to exist. But in neighboring countries, opposition groups operated in the past. Though it's difficult to say which opposition groups are operating in neighboring countries now. But these opposition groups based in Europe and America are mainly based there. They don't have any presence close to Eritrea. How will they change the regime in Eritrea? That is incomprehensible. They are protesting, they are attacking venues of pro-Eritrean government communities. Yes, the Eritrean government could face some financial difficulties. It might not be in a position to collect as many funds as it has been raising through these celebrations, through these festivals. How will it change the regime? For me, it's incomprehensible. I think opposition groups need to unite, and they need to agree on some points, on an agenda about how to take this struggle further, how to change the regime, how to bring democratic reforms to Eritrea, how to talk to Eritrean government, how to force Eritrean government. Problem is that there are so many Eritrean opposition groups and all are working separately. Yes, some of them have backing of TPLF, some of them have backing of European countries, US also funds them, but unity is missing, and there are diaspora organizations which are supportive of the Eritrean government too. We saw big protests in London a few days ago in support. We can say in support because that protest was mainly against Brigade Nehamido, but pro-Eritrean government communities participated there. So there is a large pro-Eritrean government diaspora community too in Europe, North America. How will these opposition parties change the regime in Eritrea by creating law and order situations in Europe, by endangering the status, the resident status of their members? That remains to be seen, but maybe they have something which they are working at. But so far, for me, it is difficult to bring about any change by just protests in Europe and America. Thank you for watching.